means for economists, what it means for managers, what it means for you. And I would like you simply to relay this message. Unless we raise awareness, unless we are committed ourselves, things won't be achieved. There's a proverb in my country saying that if your dream becomes reality, it's not big enough. Keep your dreams big. Ahmed.
We are pleased to invite to the stage Head of ESCAP Sub-Regional Office for North and Central Asia, Representative Office of the Embassy of India in Almaty, Madame Titiana Bonaparte.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear students, a very good morning. It is really a deep pleasure to be here today with you. I'd like to immediately extend heartfelt thanks to the Vice Rector and to Professor Rafiz Abbasov for the really impressive organization of this model UN event. I represent ESCAP. ESCAP is a regional commission, a geographic regional commission that covers 53 member states of the United Nations in Asia Pacific. Our official name is Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. And that's one of the problems we have in the UN, is we use very long words and we use very long titles. And but what our work is about is economic cooperation. Economic cooperation among the governments of the Asia Pacific region. And ESCAP, United Nations, is the secretariat. We serve the member countries and we promote the cooperation among governments. We do not impose cooperation, we encourage cooperation. And I was asked today to say a few words about the Economic and Social Survey of Asia and the Pacific, which is this book here. It is our flagship publication. It's done once a year, and it is, I think, very much related to the core of our functions, which is to do research, it's to do analysis, and it's to provide the evidence base that will encourage and inspire cooperation among countries for peace. This publication was started in 1957, and it has been issued every year. And I would like to recall the South African ambassador's point about the more things change, the more they remain the same. In French, we say, plus ça change. And if we look at the theme topic of 1957, post-war problems of economic development. If we jump to 1980, then the theme topic of this publication was short-term economic policy aspects of the energy situation in Asia Pacific. If we jump to 1990, infrastructure development, challenges and opportunities. we move to 2008, triple threats to development: food, fuel, and financial crisis. And then finally, 2016, the theme is nurturing productivity for inclusive growth. And the point I am making is that the challenges have a way of recurring, perhaps in different forms, but the problems are quite similar every year. The ambassador of France talked about optimism. He also talked about obstination. So there is some kind of obstination in the way problems recur in the same way. And as young people, as future researchers, analysts, the challenge for you, for us sitting around the table, is to think through new solutions, innovative solutions that will deal with the same problems in a different way. And I think this is really what lies at the heart of the Sustainable Development Goals, finding new ways to deal with old problems. And people come and go. The problems remain for a long time, but institutions, old ones, like the UN, they will continue to find ways of promoting cooperation among countries and ways of being at the forefront of innovative solutions. And you, as the future, will be at the center of those happenings. All the old people you see on this table, including myself, we will be proud grandmothers and grandfathers. I thank you so much.
We would like to invite on the stage representative of the United Nations Department of Public Information and NRA Office, Mr. Vasimil Samek.
Yes, Alain? Please, Alain.
Salam j'espère. Assalamu alaikum. Dobro jutro. Good morning. Bonjour. Buenos dias. Ni hao. Konnichiwa. Many other languages which I would like to use. So please raise your hands. Those of the countries I have not yet actually greeted in your language, perhaps you could greet us then. Yeah. And indeed, very pleased and happy to be here with you. Honored as well, but you know, the UN is also about the flexibility and fairness. So actually, I would like to introduce my very dear colleague representing the UN Women's structure, and I think it would be fair that she speaks now to you because the issue of gender equality is very important, and I'll be coming back a bit later. Thank you very much for your understanding.
So thank you very much. It gives me great pleasure to be here today. I'm also going to speak a little bit about my experience as relevant to the United Nations. As was indicated, I'm the representative for UN Women here based in Almaty, responsible for Central Asia. But actually, I'm neither a diplomat nor a feminist. You may be very surprised to hear that, considering the job that I have. But I wanted to explain a little bit in the context how I came about to do what I'm doing. And it seems that I have two things in common with Mr. Moody here. One is I'm a US citizen as well, as he knows, but he may not know. that I also was a delegate to Model United Nations 29 years ago. So actually, I outdate you by that. So I'm very pleased. And it's actually very significant because I did mine in high school, not in university, so as it seems you did. But it's actually quite significant because when I was in high school, I was very good at math and science, and my chemistry teacher was very pleased that I was going to be an environmental scientist. And then in the 12th grade, I was invited to join Model United Nations, and I did. And I no longer became a scientist, as you see today. So my chemistry teacher was very disappointed, but I switched my focus in my life to become involved in international relations and went on to get a master's degree in international relations with a thesis focusing specifically on the United Nations and preventive diplomacy, something that was very important and still is very important at the time. So going beyond that, I continued to work in international relations for different parts of the United Nations and also many, many years for the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the OSCE, which also has an office here in Astana. Actually, I was one of the people responsible sitting in the Secretariat in Vienna in 1999 for setting up the OSCE office in Almaty when it was set up in the very, very beginning. So I have a long connection also with Central Asia and this region. But what I want to say by this is to inspire you maybe a little bit as students out there, being involved in this Model United Nations, to say that some say it's like a game or just something fun to do, but it's actually quite important and has a quite significance, and I'm a standing example of that, which is why one of the reasons why I was invited to speak here today. And I think that you can use these sessions in this time to learn more about international diplomacy and the matters that are particularly important today. As was mentioned, the 17th Sustainable Development Goals were signed on to last year, including from all the member states of the United Nations. And among those 17 goals, I'm sure you're aware that goal number 5 is the goal on gender equality. But we at UN Women and in the UN in general don't just work on goal 5 for gender equality. We work across the goals, and actually 12 of the 17 goals have a specific gender component in them, which was lobbied very, very hard by many, many member states and many UN organizations, including UN Women. Because finally now in the 21st century, it has been realized that without gender equality and without the empowerment of women, that we will not succeed at sustainable development. And I would like to very much thank the remarks by the South African ambassador here for his specific remarks regarding gender equality and his brick that he laid here today. Because I think if all of you lay those bricks, form those bricks, and lay those bricks, that we will really achieve the goal of gender equality by 2030, which is the goal not only of the SDGs, but also of global campaign to achieve Planet 50/50 by 2030. So it's all within your hands to achieve this goal and the other goals of the United Nations. And I would really call upon you to work towards those goals and to always have in your mind gender equality and the rights and opportunities of men and women in your discussions. And I'm very pleased to have learned that for this Model United Nations, the Secretary General that has been selected is a woman. So that's very significant for your Model United Nations here. And as you know, in New York, the discussions are going on for the new Secretary General, of which many of the candidates are also women. And this is also a positive sign. Of course, the best person for the job should be selected, but it is good and encouraging, and we hope that the female candidates will have an equal opportunity and be given due consideration for their extraordinary achievements that they have as individual candidates. The second thing I noted is that the UNFPA session, which is being held at this Model United Nations, is dealing specifically with gender-related issues. So that's also very good that there is this part of the Model United Nations which will deal with some specific gender aspects. So the last thought I want to leave you with today, because I know we're over time, is I wanted to mention that on my desk in my office, I have a business card holder, as one has. And there's a quote on there from someone who's been mentioned already today. And I would like to mention that quote because every day I look at this quote and it's what inspires me. And it's a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, who I know we have represented the Embassy of India, and also Mahatma Gandhi spent quite a significant part of his life in South Africa as well. And on my business card holder, it says, "Be the change you would like to see in this world." I'm sure you know this quote and heard this quote, but this is really something that inspires me truly. And from my work and what I try to do, and I hope that your work in your future, that you will also try to be the change that you would like to see in this world. Thank you very much.
We are honored to invite to the stage Head of the Representative Office of the Embassy of India in Almaty, His Excellency Naveen Kapoor.
Good morning, respected ladies and gentlemen. I am extremely honored to be present at the prestigious Al Farabi Kazakh National University amongst distinguished guests today at the 5th Annual Model United Nations New Silk Way Conference co-hosted by Model UN New Silk Way Program in partnership with Al Farabi Kazakh National University. The event, organized in context of UN Academic Impact UN AI initiative with support of the US diplomatic mission to Kazakhstan, is an excellent effort to bring young minds from different countries together to express their views on varied issues relevant to the current times. This effort by the US and the UN is really appreciable. The world economy, as we know, may not be showing a very encouraging trend currently, with gaps between haves and have not ever increasing. This calls for carefully collaborated macroeconomic policies and a renewed impetus on structural reforms. To be able to maintain sustainable course of development, it is imperative that we cater to the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Sincere efforts should be made in direction and all impediments to growth removed by strictly making people accountable in executing projects. Either they deliver or they resign, because common people cannot suffer indefinitely. There is no dearth of resources. However, what is required is sincerity to deliver the goods, keeping politics and corruption aside. Our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, addressing the UN Sustainable Development Summit on September 26, 2015, emphasized that elimination of poverty in all forms is at the top of our goals, which he said is a vital necessity for ensuring peaceful, sustainable, and just world. He added that goals recognize that economic growth, industrialization, infrastructure, and access to energy provide the foundations of development. Today, he said, much of India's development agenda is mirrored in the Sustainable Development Goals, which India would be achieving all the goals it has envisioned. Thank you very much.
We would like to invite to the stage Mr. Vasimil Samim, Mr. Rafiz Abazov, and His Excellency Navin Kapoor.
Once again, good morning. I didn't expect to be here for the second time today, but that's the way the life goes. This is a very special moment. I'm not going to speak. I know that there have been so many nice speeches, very impressive, I'm sure also inspiring, and let's leave it that way. And also, we are waiting for the coffee break, I'm sure. So, well, thanking you for being patient and indeed waiting for the, I think, the highlights of the day, which is the beginning of the conference itself. I would like just to use this particular moment, first of all, to thank all of those who are participating today, starting from the distinguished guests, the ambassadors, the heads of the diplomatic missions, of course, His Excellency Mr. Norimasa Shimomura, the UN Resident Coordinator, who is here with us, thanking the leadership of the university, and of course, you all, the delegates coming from various countries. And we are coming to a very interesting point. We are talking about the sustainability, about what is ahead, because this is the year one of the Sustainable Development Goals for the 2016-2030. And we, as you have heard already, have a very special kind of momentum here today. The Kazakh National University, named after Al Farabi, has been extended thanks to the tremendous and successful efforts to lead the United Nations Academic Impact Global Hub on Sustainability to serve for another 2 years. And it is indeed a great pleasure for Mr. Norimasa Shimomura and me to hand over on behalf of the United Nations Academic Impact and the United Nations Under-Secretary General for Communication and Public Information, Ms. Kristina Gayak, the certificate to Mr. Lukasz Urkutbayev, the first Vice Rector of the University. Thank you very much.
Там не видно. Там не видно. Давай, көрін бейті.
Thank you.
And now, without further ado, thank you very much, all of you, for coming, for participating. Thank you very much indeed for sharing your experience and your ideas. And I would like to announce that our international conference, Model UN New Silk Way 2016, officially is open. Thank you.
Вот это достаточно? Но второй, то я буду забрать. Оригинал? Мне же два гнал. Важно.
Это обратно где-то?
А второй дальше, первый дальше, да? Оригинал, да?